Hello, this is Kathleen Flynn from the law offices of Kathleen M. Flynn, LLC in Decatur, Georgia. We handle Social Security disability cases at the initial level through U.S. District Court for children and adults. We also handle service-connected veterans benefits cases after they've been denied at the initial level. Today I'm going to focus on the very long delays at the initial and reconsideration levels of the Social Security Administration. In Georgia, it's called Disability Adjudication Services, where your case will be assigned to an adjudicator, and you get a different adjudicator if you don't prevail at the first level and go to the reconsideration level. In other states, it's called Disability Determination Services. If you saw my other video, I believe I mentioned that it used to take 3 to 6 months pre-pandemic. Georgia was one of the last states to reopen, and they were already shifting or shipping out cases around the country. So when they reopened, even more cases had to be sent out of state because they weren't handling them for most of the pandemic. That meant your case might have been evaluated in California. A lot of our cases in Georgia end up going to Baltimore or Birmingham, although they have been sent to locations around the country. So we've seen delays up to 2 years. We had a client come to us after the case was sitting a year. Her case was in Baltimore. The adjudicator told me that someone else had had the case, and that person left the agency and she was assigned the case. And you will find that you'll leave, or your attorney will leave, voicemails for an adjudicator, and they may not always get back to the attorney. So the attorney has to go to a supervisor. And if that doesn't work, the attorney suggests that the client contact a congressperson. Other than the adjudicator and the supervisor, I personally have had to go back to Georgia to a contact I've known 20 years. And in this instance, with this case that was sitting this long, she sent a message to the adjudicator because she hadn't responded to our phone calls, nor had the supervisor. And because she messaged the adjudicator called me and said, well, your client had some temp work that we needed explained. Well, we never got a message that that was something that was a missing piece of information, and if it hadn't been our persistence, the case would have sat even longer. So that might be one reason why there are long delays. The adjudicators have left in numbers from various states. In Georgia, I was told they lost half the adjudicators, and in one state I was told they had just hired a couple who left right away, I guess because their caseloads were so great. So let's recap some of the reasons why there are long delays. I mentioned that Georgia was one of the last 5 to reopen. I mentioned that adjudicators are or have been leaving. Well, there are some other reasons that I've been told by management, that their contracted doctors who examine you, they've lost 3/4 of those. So in one instance, a congressperson contacted management at DAS and asked why an eye exam had been scheduled, and the answer was they only had one eye examiner. So if you are required to go to their doctor for a consultative physical exam or a mental exam, which happens in most cases, even though they might have paperwork from your treating source that shows what your limitations are, and they're only supposed to go to a consultative examiner if they need additional information, which is typically provided in the records and in your treating source statements. They do it anyway. They schedule the exams. Now, we did have one instance of a 57-year-old who had a prescription for a cane and had paperwork from 2 treating sources. Her exam was canceled, and she won within, I believe it was 6 or 7 months. I asked my assistant the quickest amount of time that somebody's won, and that would be 1 month with a compassionate allowance. And you can Google compassionate allowance cases to see if you have like Lou Gehrig's disease, for example, or a certain form of cancer. You wouldn't even need an attorney to represent you. However, any case that doesn't fit within the compassionate allowance category, expect long delays. Now, this woman, as I told you, because she had paperwork from 2 treating sources and a prescription for a cane and was over 55 and had no transferable skills, they canceled the exam with the contracted Social Security physical examiner or mental consultative examiner. And that's why her case moved faster. My assistant said that other cases that might have moved faster, might be about 6 months, but that's 1 in 100. Just as a rough estimate, we're not counting. So besides the amount of time it's taking due to the holdup with the lack of consultative physical examiners, I found out from someone in Baltimore that they've lost those who examine the file. If you're sent to their physical or mental examiner, you're not going to have somebody review your file. That doctor is not paid enough and does not have enough time. There's a different doctor that the Social Security Administration contracts with on the initial or reconsideration level to review your file after all the evidence is in, including any exams with Social Security's contracted doctors. So if they don't have enough of those doctors to review your file, you're going to see long delays because of that as well. And that's a new bit of information that I learned. So are there any ways you can get your case moved faster? We had a client come to us. He wasn't even a client for 5 months. And sadly, he terminated us because it wasn't moving fast enough. And he had some other issues that, were reflected in his employment and personal background. But don't expect quick results from your attorney if you are expecting that. I will not promise that. I cannot promise that. However, if you're homeless, your case is supposed to be marked homeless. And when we do applications, we're asked for an address. And when we do appeals, we're asked for an address and we write homeless. We also write at the top of the applications. We write it in numerous places. And the district offices are still not marking the cases homeless. And that's causing a delay. I've even paid for reports and I've asked DAS to review the reports to tell us if the cases are marked homeless. And the legal assistants that are on the status lines, they're not telling us whether the cases are marked homeless. And I heard that they have a shortage of people answering the phones on the status lines in Georgia, as an aside. So if the case isn't marked homeless, we have to go back to the district office, but we also have a liaison above the district office. And I had asked her if she could contact on an individual basis the manager at the district office, because if it's a certain employee that keeps forgetting to mark the case homeless, it needs to be solved. But that request was not honored. I was told they have monthly meetings, and I guess they just talk about it in a general sense that your staff needs to mark the case as homeless. So if you're a homeless person, I'd recommend you ask your attorney to conference you in to find out if the case is marked homeless. And of course, if you're a veteran who is 100% unemployable, that case is supposed to move forward. So if you were injured on active duty October 1st, 2001 or later, while on active duty and the injury had to occur on active duty, your case should automatically be adjudicated faster. Also, if you're homicidal or suicidal, and that could be documented, your case should be moved faster. So here's some examples of how you can try to get your case moved faster. If not, through these examples, contact your congressperson. They'll at least make a phone call and bring your case to the top of the pile. So one thing I just learned from NASCAR, which I'm going to read, they have just sent a significant number, and we don't know how many they're referring to. So I've given you some examples of how you can move your case faster. I would also, as I said earlier, contact a congressperson. Their call might move your case to the top of the pile. Your attorney cannot do that because you're the constituent. I've had clients ask me to make the call, and I've tried that before, and the congressperson said, have your client call us directly. And you may have to fill out an authorization form off the congressperson's website. So some new news that NASCAR provided, the hearing office will send, it says, a significant number of attorney advisors to the DAS and DDS offices. We're not sure how many attorney advisors will be sent or to which state specifically. But I used to work at a hearing office, and attorney advisors would write decisions for the judges. So they're being trained to help with the backlog at the initial and reconsideration levels. So hopefully that will help with the lack of staff to process your case faster. If you have any further questions, please feel free to call us. We'd be happy to help you. Our number is 404-479-4431. We're in Decatur, Georgia, but we travel all over the country. The hearing offices are still doing some cases by phone. If you prefer in person, you're given that option, and masks have to be worn, and there's a piece of plexiglass between the judge and the claimant and his or her attorney. They're also offering video hearings and phone hearings. So we'd be happy to help you. Our contact information will be at the end of the video. Have a nice day, and thank you for watching this.